I'm Nintendo.
And I'm Sega.
This is Console Wars! What is all that noise?
Huh? I'll go check it out. It's our neighbors. I think they're having a party or something.
It's so early. It's only 6 or 7 minutes after 3. Don't they have any manners?
I guess some people are just awake by this time.
I'm getting a little tired of this neighborhood. First it was the kid with the hiccups, then the guy that burped once, and now this?
I know, but what can you do?
Oh, there's something we can do.
What? Go down there? Ask them politely to keep it down?
No. Get somebody to take care of this. I know just who to get.
Who? The police?
Nope. Even better. The Paperboy.
Paperboy?
Yeah. Whenever the people in the neighborhood got out of hand, he just throws a newspaper at them, stop dead in their tracks. Didn't you ever play the game?
Yeah, I don't remember if I played that game. But I definitely played Paperboy too.
Yes. The highly acclaimed sequel. Great for the Super Nintendo.
Right, but it was better for Sega Genesis.
No, it was better for the Super Nintendo, which it says right here on the cartridge.
That's it! We doing this?
Can a newspaper stop a ghost? Yes, it can. So yes, we're doing this.
Best Paperboy 2.
Paperboy 2 is the sequel to the arcade hit Paperboy. It was released solely for home consoles in 1991. There were games made for the Amiga, Amstrad CPC, Atari ST, MS-DOS, Game Boy, Game Gear, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and the ZX Spectrum.
The versions we're looking at today are the Super Nintendo game developed by Tengen and published by Mindscape, and the Sega Genesis game developed by Atari and published by Tengen. Two very similar games with plenty of differences. So, which one's better? Let's find out.
The games do look similar.
Both games have the look you'd expect from a Paperboy game. You're on your bike in this isometric-looking suburb. We have similar-looking houses, similar-looking characters, similar-looking character animations, and similar-looking obstacle courses. They're almost the same-looking games.
That's a bit of a stretch. My game definitely looks better than yours. Just look at the colors.
The Sega game is definitely the more colorful of the two. There's lots of bright colors that pop on Sega. The Super Nintendo game looks more monochrome. It's nice and sunny on Sega, while it's cloudy and gray on Super Nintendo. This is kind of baffling because the Super Nintendo definitely has more colors, but for some reason they decided to barely use them.
It's not just your colors that are bad. Let's look at those animations.
Everything on the Super Nintendo game looks choppy. Just look at the bike riding animations in both games. Every character's movement is just so stiff on Super Nintendo. It looks so much smoother on the Sega.
And you're missing animations too.
When you hit the sunbather on Sega, you see the host continue to spray her. When you hit the sunbather on Super Nintendo, the water just freezes. Or take a look when you complete the obstacle course. Check out all the moving spectators on Sega. Now check them out on Super Nintendo. They don't move at all, and they look pretty bad.
Okay, don't go getting all high and mighty. Your game's not perfect looking. My game has more variety.
On Super Nintendo, I have these uniquely designed houses. I have a castle. No, wait, 2 castles. Sega doesn't have any. I also have a haunted house with ghouls and mummies. You don't have that either. I have a gothic house with gargoyles in front. Again, Sega doesn't have this either. Not to mention a sweet Paperboy statue in the center of town. Super Nintendo exclusive.
And houses aren't the only area you lack variety.
Check out the cars at the intersection. On Super Nintendo, I have a meat truck being chased by a Dalmatian. And a dog patrol vehicle. On Sega, you have generic black cars. They never change. Just the same looking cars. Super Nintendo has more variety, which is the spice of life.
Variety's nice, but your game still looks really poor. I mean, it barely looks 16-bit.
The overall design of both games isn't pushing either console to the limits, but the Super Nintendo game looks so much worse. This honestly looks like it could be on the NES. The houses are plain, the characters look terrible. I mean, did they not want this game to look good on purpose? And yes, the Genesis game isn't amazing to look at either, but at least it's colorful with much smoother animations. It's definitely better than this.
There's just no denying it. I have the better looking game.
With better use of color, smoother animations, more animations, and having a more 16-bit look, best graphics go to Sega Genesis.
Presentation in both games is similar too.
Both games use the newspaper motif a lot. Here it's the Daily Sun. You see it in the beginning for the character select, you see it in between levels, it's used for the ending of course, and if you get a game over. Both games also show you a map of subscribed and unsubscribed homes before each route. Our HUDs are the same too, showing the number of lives, number of papers, and score.
Almost identical presentations.
Are you kidding me? Mine's so much better. Let's focus on those newspapers in between the levels.
Check out the pictures. They look a lot better on Sega. They have more detail and look less cartoony. And not only do mine look better, the Sega game has more of them. The Super Nintendo game only has 3. The cop's even in the same spot in these pictures. Check it out, Dancing Cop.
So your game has fewer pictures compared to mine.
What's wrong with that? Less is more, I always say.
Yeah, but you keep reusing the same picture.
Super Nintendo just reuses this cop pointing at the broken window a lot. Dog leash law considered? Cop and broken window. Sonic boom or bust? Cop and broken window. Property tax to increase? Cop and broken window. Remember that sunbather who got hosed before? On Super Nintendo, when she complains, you get cop and broken window. Not on Sega, you actually get the sunbather. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Babes in Sega.
It's not just the pictures that make my paper look better. Let's take a look at those headlines.
The Super Nintendo papers only have one headline. One! But the Genesis papers have multiple headlines. Just like a real paper. And they're kind of funny too.
And let's take a closer look at that print.
On Super Nintendo, the print is blurry and out of focus. That's okay, I guess. But if you look at the Genesis print, it says blah blah blah. That's kind of funny, and it definitely shows a little more effort.
There's even a small difference during gameplay.
Whenever you crash your bike, you fall off. But sometimes on Sega, you get a little comic-inspired crash. But on Super Nintendo, you never see those graphics. You always just fall off your bike. Those crashes and smacks show a little more effort in the Sega game.
This was another easy victory.
With more pictures, more headlines, more words, more crash, just more, best presentation goes to Sega Genesis.
Well, our music is...
You better not say identical.
No, very different.
Both games have their own music during gameplay, and both games have their own music during the obstacle course.
Right, but those are the only 2 songs in your game. I have a lot more music.
Sega has a title theme, a subscriber's Tenjin logo theme, and a menu game over theme.
So much of the Super Nintendo game is in silence.
Here's the Super Nintendo title screen, game over screen, and subscriber screen. Hear that? No music at all.
More music definitely gives my game best sound.
You're just jealous because my game has better stage music.
It's not that great.
Oh, really? Let's just ask Nelly.
Oh, not this argument again. How long have you been saying this?
Ever since Nellyville came out in 2002, I believe this soundtrack inspired him to write the hit single Hot and Her. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Alright, maybe I hear it.
Maybe you hear it? Aren't you supposed to be some kind of musician?
Okay, even if Nelly did steal that, it still doesn't make your sound better.
No, but better sound effects does.
Listen to the sewer monster on Super Nintendo. It sounds like a monster. And now on Sega, what is that? That's definitely one of those amazing fart sound effects your console's known for. Your ghost also sounds pretty ridiculous.
You should talk. Listen to how bad your ghost is.
Let's talk about something you don't have. Voiceovers.
The Sega game is loaded with voiceovers.
Hey, wake up!
For the Paperboy or Paper Girl.
Phew! What died in there?
They can be pretty funny.
I need glasses.
They even talk when you pause.
Time for a nap.
It's not that great.
The Paper Boy and the Paper Girl say the exact same things the exact same way. I'm pretty sure they're the same person, they just changed the pitch.
Service with a smile.
Service with a smile. Back off.
Back off.
And your characters can be dicks.
Let's see you hang 10. Watch the eggs. What a belly flop.
They're a little full of themselves.
What a great toss.
They're so cheeky?
There I go again.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a little personality.
Service
And sometimes your
with a smile.
sound effects are delayed.
Some of the sound effects in Super Nintendo are really delayed. It can be pretty disorienting when you play.
My sound is definitely better than yours.
With more songs, exclusive voiceovers, no weird delays, best sound goes to Sega Genesis.
Let's see you hang 10.
Now, the gameplay, for the most part, is the same.
Actually, yeah.
You play as the Paper Boy or Paper Girl. Objective is simple. Get the paper to the subscriber's mailbox or door. If you miss or break a window, you lose a subscriber. You have to do this for 7 days.
You need to make it through without dying or losing all your subscribers. There are 3 difficulties. Beating it on easy takes you to medium. Beating on medium takes you to hard. It's only when you beat the game on hard do you beat either game.
It's not that easy though, since everything in the world is trying to kill you. From dogs, to drivers, to ghosts, to clowns on unicycles. It's a sick world, man.
And enemies get more aggressive the further you progress with either the days or the difficulty.
Okay, now I'm mad.
You can get back lost subscribers with a perfect run. However, you can only get one house back at a time. If you didn't miss any houses at all, then you get an extra life.
Each day ends with an obstacle course that only gives you more points. The points don't get you a 1-up or anything, they're just for bragging rights.
Pretty similar.
But there's so many differences. Even throwing the newspapers is different.
When you throw papers on Sega, it's in a bit of a forward angle. This means you have to release papers a little bit early to hit your targets. On Super Nintendo, you don't need to release the paper as early. It's more of a straight line. It can be a bit of an adjustment going from one game to the other.
They're both pretty accurate once you get used to it.
Still like mine better.
Okay, well my game has something that yours doesn't. A jump button.
That's right, exclusive to the Sega Genesis game is a jump button. No more worrying about curbs. No more needing to stay in the street until you see a ramp. No more taking a hit needlessly, because now you have a jump on Sega. It can even help you avoid getting hit if you use it at the right moment. It's a lifesaver, and there's no cool jumping on Super Nintendo.
I mean, how often do you really use it?
A lot, actually. And I always have my favorite Van Halen song in my head when I use it.
Let me guess. Jump?
No, but that would make a lot of sense. I always think of their lesser known song. You know, the one that avoids copyright infringement. Hop.
Yeah, now go ahead and hop. Just go ahead and hop. Come on, get on a bike and hop. Might as well hop.
Huh. I didn't know that Van Halen song.
Yeah, most people don't.
Well, despite your jump, or hop, I still think my game's better. I have so many more enemies.
Sega is missing enemies the Super Nintendo game has. You're missing these gargoyles. You're missing the zombie and the mummy. You're missing these window pane guys. I mean, Wayne's World 2. Am I right? You're missing guys moving a couch. You don't have a girl crossing the street. You don't have the cops chasing the gimp. And you're also missing these murderous crows.
You're missing enemies I have too.
The Super Nintendo doesn't have this old lady walking, or these clowns juggling eggs, and you don't have these bees. These terrible heat-seeking bees.
That's all I'm missing? I have way more than you.
Alright, let's talk about something else then. The difficulty.
On Sega, to select the difficulty, you just select the difficulty. Couldn't be any easier. Surely it's just that simple on Super Nintendo. Nope. You don't select the difficulty with words, but with a code. A very specific 4-digit code. You only get the code for medium by beating easy, and you get the code for hard by beating medium. Or you can just go on the internet. And if that wasn't bad enough, you can't just enter the 4-digit code like any normal password. You have to hold down the right direction and scroll to the code. And the codes aren't low numbers either. Medium is 5738, and hard is 6479. Why did they do this? Couldn't they just let you pick the difficulty like in the Sega game? Or at the very least, just use a normal password system? Anything is better than this scrolling nonsense. And every time you get a game over, you have to enter the code again. So frustrating.
Okay, well, it's not perfect, but my game's still better because my levels are all random.
When you play the Super Nintendo game, you never play the same level twice. Let's say you play it on easy, then die. The next time you play, the layout will be different. The map will still be the same, but which houses are subscribed and unsubscribed won't be. It really ups the replayability of the game. Then you have the Genesis version. Those levels are always the same, for all the difficulties. The easy road is always the same, so is the medium and the hard. They never change which houses are subscribed. They never change the order of the houses. The layout is pretty much always the same.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
These games are a bit tough. Having the same layout makes it easier to learn patterns, to develop techniques. You can improve and overcome. You can't do that on Super Nintendo. As soon as it's game over, the street is brand new, and you only have 5 lives to learn any patterns. These games are tough enough. They don't need to be completely random, too.
Your game's hard enough as it is.
The randomness of the enemies is enough to constantly kill you. This baby carriage is unavoidable if you stay on the sidewalk. This ghost and crow both kill you if you miss them with the papers. They're pretty much unavoidable instant death. This difficult game needs random levels too? Come on, give the player a chance.
The randomness gives my game more variety.
That doesn't necessarily make it fun. Besides, my 2-player mode's better.
The 2-player in both games is just 1 player at a time. The Sega game is better because of how often the game switches back and forth. If you die, it switches to the other player. If you beat the level, it switches to the other player. This means the person you play with won't be bored waiting. On Super Nintendo, it doesn't switch when you die. You keep going until you beat the level or get game over. This can make it boring for the other player. More switching between players makes my game better.
Okay, you switch more, but my 2-player mode is still better.
First off, in 2-player mode, the players actually have different courses. Player 1 takes the left street and player 2 takes the right. Again, my game has more variety. And second, now this is really cool, if both players reach the obstacle course, then you can actually play it at the same time. Super Nintendo exclusive! You can be nice and peaceful, or you can try to take each other out. It adds a level of competition to the 2-player mode that the Sega game just doesn't have.
Shared obstacle course doesn't make up for how little it switches back and forth. Besides, the game's still really difficult.
In both games, you have 2 places to deliver the papers, the mailbox and the front door. The mailbox is nice and obvious in both games. The front door is a different story. The It's nice and clear on Sega because there's a doormat where you need to throw. On Super Nintendo, there's no doormat or anything. It's not so obvious where you need to throw if you miss the mailbox. Again, the Super Nintendo game's more frustrating.
So my game's a little more challenging. No big deal.
Challenging is definitely an understatement. Now let's talk about refilling your newspaper supply.
In both games, newspapers are limited, but it's not so bad because refills are all over the place. The Super Nintendo has a bit of a glitch though. You can hold up to 19 papers in that game. A refill gives you 10 papers, so a refill brings 1 to 11, 2 to 12, and so on. If you have 10 papers, a refill should just bring it up to 19, right? Wrong! If you have 10 or more papers and you hit a refill, it does nothing. Nothing. What kind of nonsense is this? Why doesn't it give you any papers? It's complete garbage. It's not a problem in the Sega game. Refills always give you more papers. You don't have to have 9 or fewer just to get a refill.
Again, my game's just a little more challenging.
No, it's just bad. And you still have one more problem. Talking about the slowdown.
The Super Nintendo game has a ton of slowdown. It usually happens when you throw multiple papers in a row, but it doesn't always need that. You can have slowdown on its own just fine. This leads to incredibly choppy gameplay. That, combined with the delayed sound effects, makes this game very disorienting to play. And how's that slowdown on Sega? Non-existent.
Well, I still have Spice of Life,
Hey, wake up.
aka variety.
So my game has so much more than that. Gameplay is mine.
For having an exclusive jump button, easier to get to difficulties, level consistency to get better, a 2-player mode that switches more often, papers that always refill, and no slowdown, best gameplay goes to Sega Genesis.
Both games are similar, but one is definitely better. And that game is Paperboy 2 for the Sega Genesis.
It has better graphics, with being more colorful, being smoother, having more animations, and looking more like a 16-bit game. It has better presentation, with more pictures, more headlines, more actual words, and fun crashes. It has better sound, with more music, exclusive voiceovers,
There I go again.
and no delayed sound effects. It has better gameplay, with an exclusive jump button, easy to get to difficulties, levels that you can hone your skills on, more switching in 2 players, newspapers that always refill, and no slowdown. This wasn't even close. The Super Nintendo game really feels like a much poorer counterpart to the Genesis game. It's like they barely tried, and it shows. It's like they were doing just the bare minimum to make it a playable game. While the Genesis version feels like a completely different and fun experience. Best Paperboy 2 goes to Sega Genesis.
Well, that was easy. Now, time to relax.
These neighbors!
Where is that Paperboy? It's getting ridiculous.
That must be him. To the window!
That's a wall. Window's over there.
To that one!
Alright, here he comes. He's already got the newspaper in hand.
And there's one of our neighbors. Prepare for some Paperboy justice.
Wait, he's putting the newspaper away. And what's he grabbing?
Is that a bat? Oh!
Man, he's really going to town on him.
He kind of deserves it. He doesn't recycle.
That's true. Hey, look, another neighbor. The doctor. Oh, good. He put the bat away.
And here comes the newspaper. Now we'll see some sweet Paperboy action.
Wait, he's pulling something out of the newspaper. Is that a hammer?
Oh! Yep. That was a hammer. This Paperboy might be a little nuts.
Yeah. Oh no, here comes another neighbor. Old Man Beisenhose.
He's holding the paper again. What's he gonna pull out this time? A flamethrower?
Seriously. Wait a minute. Is he? He did! He just threw the newspaper!
Yeah! Alright, finally got some Paperboy action.
Oh, man, that was just like the video game.
See, I knew he wasn't a psychopath. Oh, wait, no, he's beating up old man Beezenhose with a baseball bat now. Oh, well, that did not go the way I expected.
No, it did not. There's definitely a lesson to be learned here. If you have a problem with your neighbors, do not call the Paperboy.
Yeah, definitely. You call the paper girl.
Thanks for checking out our latest video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to Xavier the Lycan for his donations of both games. Thanks to everyone who suggested Paperboy 2. And keep those suggestions coming, we will get to them. Also, check us out on Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more console wars goodness. Later.
So like, how should I? Do I need again? Less lighter, be good? Or a lot lighter?
Use that for the outtake.